Welcome, everybody, to the big picture. I want to thank everybody in our entire audience to continue to support that we're getting, the continuous questions and answers that myself and my partner in crime here, Chris, is giving us. It is phenomenal. So we love the outpouring. We're going to have a good conversation today around stable coins. And before we can get into stable coins, we really got to be talking about cryptocurrency, Bitcoin, and things like that. So people get a better understanding as we unpack what stable coins are and how they can impact what we're doing in St. Croix and building out the financial center. So, Chris, you like to introduce yourself?
Well, Grant, I am so excited for today. Hey, everyone, I'm Chris Principe, publisher of Financial IT, and I am here to have a great conversation with my pal, Grant.
As always. So, Chris, we're going to talk about stable coins, and stable coins is starting to get a little bit traction. There's some buzz going on around it in the financial centers. We don't really know exactly what it is. I want you to help us unpack that. Talk to us just like we are just interested business investors around stablecoin and why we should get involved. So help us understand that.
Well, Grant, that is the topic that right now is hot. And I will tell you, from all the big events that I've gone to, this year and even last year, the first thing you hear about is AI, artificial intelligence. Well, since kind of April into May and June, and now we're July, the stable coin conversation is just increasing in volume. And that's why it's brought to our attention here on the big picture. But before we get into that, I know everyone knows how important that security is. And I know that everyone knows that security is one of the things that we really need to always have in place. And Grant, I just want to ask you a quick question because I was just looking at some real interesting things. I was looking at what are the top passwords that people use for their accounts. And I was really surprised. I was really surprised. And let me give this, 6 out of the top 10 passwords are just series of numbers. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, right? These are 6 of the top 10 passwords.
That's not good. That's just, it's like hack me now. That's what that should be your password. Hack me now.
Well, to me, I like passwords that are kind of a statement, like I love $4. My house is here. Kind of things that you can remember. Anyway, the number 4 password that people use, and this was a series done globally, is password.
That's the oldest trick in the book.
I was like, that was yeah. Now, number 17 was one that I love, and it's I love you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. You should not be doing that. I mean, nowadays you can get a generated password directly from Google that'll be just it's pretty much impossible to hack, but you have to have some discipline by using it. And if you've got a Chrome browser that you're using, that password is always going to be with you, so you don't have to worry about remembering it. It'll just automatically kind of work for you. So, Chris, where are we going with this? Is that a problem in the crypto world now that you got these hackable passwords? Is that where you're going with this?
And that's where Grant, you know me, okay? And that's where I'm going with this. And that's why I wanted to start with security, because I was so surprised. And you hear about people being hacked and their identities being taken and really terrible things happening to them, and mostly financial, which is why we're concerned about for everyone. So if anyone out there is watching this, if anyone out there has a password like this, Grant, that was an excellent suggestion, is a generated password. Or like I said, if you just use a little phrase or something that is personal to you, you can really avoid all these problems. but when the number one password in the world is 1234, you know, it really sets a lot of people up for misfortune.
You got that right. So let's not do that. Let's do some digital hygiene out here.
Great. So now let's move along. And yeah, let's talk about crypto, because I don't think people might be aware, but the House of Representatives of the United States has designated the week starting July 14th, which is next week, as Crypto Week. So our show right now is really appropriate because we're right in the middle of that week, and it is Crypto Week. And that's what we want to talk about this. So one of the reasons why they've designated it as Crypto Week is there's 3 landmark bills that are being reviewed in Congress right now, whether it's the Senate or the House of Representatives, both are doing it, which is, the first one is the Clarity Act. The other one is the Anti-CBDC Surveillance State Act. And the last one, which is kind of my favorite, is the Genius Act. And Grant, I just want to talk really quick in very simple terms so people understand what our government is really looking at. And it's really, really interesting in how this administration is so blatantly pro-crypto compared to the last administration, which was so blatantly in looking to enforce and reduce our position when it comes to crypto and the technology that surrounds it. So it kind of a distinct difference in approach there. So the Clarity Act is really just to be able to set up a framework for cryptocurrencies, for stable coins, and for other digital assets, right? And that framework is going to be around important things like regulation and regulatory clarity. It's going to be around stablecoin regulation, consumer protection, and that's a big one there, and then some of the market rules that will be need to, so everyone can play nice, and then tax treatment, which is really important. And Grant, we've kind of spoken about this before, because the way that crypto is treated right now by the IRS is as a commodity, so you have capital gains tax on any profits that you make, while the judicial side of our government treats it as a currency, and if you're money laundering using crypto, you go to jail. Okay, so you pretty much, you're paying the government and you're going to jail. I mean, at the same time. So there really needs to be some clarity there, because the government can't continue to call it a commodity and to call it a currency, because they're two quite different things. And in our world, basically, currencies are not taxed in capital gains, while commodities, for instance, your bonds, your stock shares, these things are treated as commodities and are subject to capital gains tax. And then the last two parts of this bill is to improve the coordination between the SEC and the CFTC. And finally, it will look to provide additional innovation support. So pretty interesting bill that right now is in the House of Representatives, hasn't been approved yet, but will be moving on, hopefully, with the support of the House of Representatives.
This is
so let me give you the second bill.
Go ahead.
Yeah. So let me give you the second bill. And this is why, we are in Crypto Week, because all these things will be dramatically work on giving us a better environment for crypto, right? So the anti-CBDC, right? So CBDC is central bank digital currency. The anti-central bank digital currency surveillance state act, okay? And this right now is pretty uniquely a U.S. Set of rules and regulations that they want to put in. It's really pretty simple, and it fits with our historic democratic system, right? And privacy for people from the government to some extent in these things. So what this does, if it's passed, is it blocks our government's ability to issue a digital currency. Okay. And that would be a digital currency, of course, issued by the government. So government controlled. And that's one of the key things. And they want the government, they don't want a currency that's government controlled, because one, it can unduly influence a lot of things, but also it brings up a lot of privacy concerns on our individual rights and protections already afforded to us as Americans in the Declaration of Independence and the Bill of Rights, right? So that's kind of important. And that means that if that's passed, we will not see a United States government-issued cryptocurrency or digital currency.
Interesting.
Okay? And we know, Grant, that in many countries of the world, they are pursuing this path. Some of them have already issued digital currencies, right? So quite a different approach than what we've seen previously in many parts of the world.
This is very interesting. You bring up a point that we need to be aware of this. It's one of the reasons why you have to pay attention to what's going on in the government world. It's not about being Republican or Democratic. It's just understanding what the government is doing, and then you can address it in your individual way. But you got to know, where the cards are being played so that you can get the best leverage for where you're at. So this is important information that you're bringing out, and we'll have to see how this bill will transact over time.
Yeah, and it is so important to stay aware of these things because, granted, you say that it can affect so many aspects of your life. So for instance, if you're a person who has crypto holdings today as part of your portfolio, and it's a good thing to have part of that, portfolio diversification is one thing you hear all the time from anybody who's authorized and licensed to give you tax advice or investment advice. And I'll just stop and say right now that we are not here to give investment advice. Do not take what we say as investment advice. We're here just to give you some information and hopefully a better understanding of some things that may on their face seem complex.
Yep, very much so. So we're going to go to break right quick. We're going to come right back. We're going to get deeper into this so we can have a better understanding of what we're talking about.
I got to get to my favorite one, which is the Genius Act, and we'll start right after that.
Sounds good to me. One moment.
This is our Caribbean, the world's first climate smart zone, a collection of economies that thrive on renewable energy and technological innovations to confront the effects of climate change and create spaces for its people to be safe, productive, and happy. We are proud to be economies that are at one with our planet while taking advantage of the fourth industrial revolution. In Caribbean 2040, policies are anchored in a sound institutional framework that allows citizens to move freely, experience an improved rule of law, and give expression to their creativity and talents. In Jamaica, economic stability is the norm. Productivity has grown so much that the GDP per capita has increased by 250% since 2018. Innovation is the norm. Tech-savvy youth are everywhere, and the orange economy is world famous. In the Bahamas, climate change risks are better confronted through strong adaptation for the 700 plus islands in the archipelago. More than 40% of the nation's coastlines have been reinforced to prevent erosion, creating numerous specialized jobs focused on climate adaptation, infrastructure, and resilience. The unemployment rate is less than 2%. Educated national youth strive to be innovative entrepreneurs, valuing stronger family units. Because of this, crime is at an all-time low. In Barbados, innovative battery storage technologies have transformed the landscape, Public transportation is powered through solar energy. 80% of the island's energy is created from renewable sources, creating thousands of jobs while reducing energy spending. LED streetlights illuminate highways and communities at night, saving millions of dollars each year for the government, business, and consumers. In Guyana, as one of the hemisphere's leading oil and gas producers, Guyana is able to export 90% of its fuel production while utilizing safe and environmentally friendly methods. Guyana's energy and forest wealth has been carefully managed, ensuring smart investments on behalf of its citizens. Supported by a robust broadband infrastructure, citizens' interactions with the government are conducted online in a more effective, efficient, and transparent way. Wi-Fi services are free for all, and roaming charges no longer exist. In Suriname, government spending is highly effective and efficient, thanks to the introduction of the Economic Stabilization Program, birthed from its own people. Also, modern farming methods, to include water-resistant seeds, have increased food production yields, making Suriname a significant global food source. In Trinidad and Tobago, now one of the world's leading technology hubs, it's home to more than 300 private sector businesses that have prospered with the development and application of innovative technologies in energy, IT, and business services. A major regional export is advisory services based on music, cuisine, sports, and fashion, with creative icons demonstrating how to effectively extract revenue from intellectual property. The nation is still world famous for organic chocolate and specialized branded.
All right, I'm glad to be. All right, we are back. And Chris, you were about to talk to us about Genius. I'm like, wow, you got my attention about this third aspect of what's going on in U.S. Congress this particular week. This is very interesting stuff. So please, Maestro, continue.
Oh boy, Grant, thank you so much. Because out of the three bills that during Crypto Week are being walked through and looked at and discussed and hopefully voted positively on in our Congress in the United States here this week, the favorite one that I have is called the Genius Act, right? I mean, how can you not like the name, right? So this one really aims to regulate emerging technology to secure the U.S. as an innovation leader, okay? And I understand it's a pretty abstract statement and everything, but really, if you look at everything that's in part of this, it's all looking to position the U.S. as being the leader globally in all facets of technology, and then certainly in the crypto space being one of those. But really looking to encourage the innovation that in some ways this country was built on, right? People who come in and have new ideas and make it happen. So that's a really interesting one. And like I said before, you know, our government here is really a two-party system, Democrats and Republicans. And what we've seen is really two different schools of thought, a pro-innovation led thought on one side and a pro-stricter regulation on the other side. And I would suggest that, you know, it would be nice if we could get everyone to agree, right? But a strategy that really pushed innovation, but still had a regulatory framework that would help promote things, plus would benefit the consumer by affording certain protections that are necessary. To me, this would be the strategy to use. And the other thing we need to think about when we're looking at these three acts, the Clarity Act, the Anti-CBDC Act, and the Genius Act, is how does that play globally? Because we have to always keep in mind crypto is borderless, right? Crypto is not contained in any one country. It's not contained in any one computer. It's not contained anywhere. It is borderless throughout the whole world. So when we look at what's going on in our Congress right now during Crypto Week, and the three key pieces of legislation that right now are being reviewed and, like I said, hopefully positively voted on, how might this clash with other regulations that are happening in other areas of the world? You know, we know right now Australia is working on quite a bit of regulation themselves, right? The EU came out with their MICA, the MICA set of regulations and things around this, the same space. So it's important to understand how does what we do going to fit in with the rest of the world, and vice versa, Grant.
Very important things that we have to consider as things are changing rapidly in the financial world as well as the technology world. I mean, no one, unless you were sleeping under a rock, you've all heard about artificial intelligence, and then how it's going to be utilized is very, very important. It's become the newest utility in a number of different ways, and it's the fastest adopted technology in human history. So you cannot sleep on artificial intelligence. We're going to go back, and now we're going to talk a little bit more about stable coins. And I know there's a big misconception about what a stable coin actually is, because people are like, hey, I've heard of Bitcoin, cryptocurrencies, I've heard of meme coins, you know, like your Doge coins and some other things. These are meme coins, but stable coins is something completely different from what we're talking about. And what you just talked about even earlier about US-backed cryptocurrencies potentially, or a government-backed digital currency, help us understand first, what is a stable coin, and then why this may be a type of leverage that we can utilize going forward, specifically in the Caribbean.
Well, you know, stable coins, it's really a very simple concept. It hasn't been all that long, past couple of years, and it's moved forward the natural tendencies that it's bringing. So a stable coin is a cryptocurrency that is backed and attached to a asset that the value of stays pretty consistent, right? So the most popular stable coins out there right now are backed to the US dollar. So they're 1-to-1, right? Wherever the US $1 is one stable coin. Some of the better known ones are USDT, right? Which is has the biggest market cap right now, and there's USDC, right? So these have been the two main ones. But what we've seen now in the last year or so has been other stable coins backed by other currencies. We've seen stable coins now backed by gold, the price of gold. So in other words, it stays consistent in value to what the price of gold is in the market. And we've seen it also attached to things like real estate. So any real assets, you know, things that have a real physical price to them and value to them, potentially a stable coin can be attached to it. So, you know, again, it's you have one US dollar. If you have USDT, and one USDT will always equal the value of one US dollar. So why is that important? Well, there's a couple of things. One, and this also ties into why we're seeing the positive movement an increase in value in crypto in general right now, right? Particularly Bitcoin. Bitcoin is at record highs again, is set new record highs, and we've seen that pull a lot of the other crypto coins in the market also to better pricing, right? And part of that is liquidity, right? Part of that is that there's new money coming into the market, and we'll talk about that a little bit. But the other part of it is one of the things that I've always said that crypto really needs, which is utility. And right now we're seeing real objective utility, and that's gaining momentum. And that a lot of that utility is because of stable coins. So utility means that you have something that it actually can do, right? So rather than just be a store of value and be able to make payments and receive money, it also is able to do other things. And that's where stable coins have come in positively in the market. And I've heard a lot of people use the term programmable money, right? So it's kind of interesting in that respect. So let me give a simple example, for instance, right?
Yeah.
So if we're in the Caribbean, right? So we'll use the Caribbean example. I'm in Jamaica, and I want to move money and make a payment to a supplier in the UK, right? So I need British pounds. Right today, because of the de-risking that's happened over the last decade or so, it's very difficult because the local banks in Jamaica do not have correspondent bank relationships to be able to move the Jamaican dollar to a bank, and then that bank will convert it to British pounds and then make the payment in British pounds. Okay, so right now that's a very difficult thing, and it's a costly thing, and it takes time, right? And that's one of the challenges in the Caribbean specifically, but it's a challenge in many other places in the world, right? With a stable coin, that local Jamaican bank can buy that stable coin, and again, it'll whatever the price of Jamaican dollar is today to the US dollar is the price that you would pay. Now, once you buy that stable coin, even if the Jamaican dollar goes down against the US dollar, it doesn't change the value you have, because when you purchase it, that stable coin at that price point of Jamaican dollar to the US dollar, when you purchase that, it stays at that value, because now basically you have US dollars. And then you can take that stable coin, send it on, and that can be converted back into British pounds, right? So, and this can happen within minutes. I mean, the technology is to the point right now where I can't say instant payments, but real close to it. So, and it's very inexpensive, because you just have what we call in the crypto world gas fees. So just like the bank charges you $2 when you go to your ATM, that's a fee. In fact, these kind of fees for the banks are very profitable, because there's really nothing that they have to do to get that fee. And what the banks call that is indirect income, right? So indirect income means money they make with really not having to do anything.
I like all of this, what you're talking about here, because if now you have a stable coin, and that's why it's called a stable coin, you have a utility for it. And if you are a merchant bank and you want to operate out of St. Croix, you're a regional trading hub, and you need fast, trusted payments, that stable coin can remove a lot of friction, a lot of time delay, a lot of cross-border investments they're taking place. And a lot of people don't want to wait, because time is money, as we've always had. So you don't have to wait 5-10 days, for a wire to clear, to your point. So if you're offering a stable coin as a way of payment and commerce, that can show a lot of institutional investors that we're forward looking. We have a low cost vehicle, and we're serious about the transparency and compliance. And that's a great trust signal if you see the merchant bank operating out of St. Croix utilizing stablecoins. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I think you're spot on, Grant. I think you really wrapped up. I would only add to that to say that if we can establish this kind of merchant banking out of the U.S. Virgin Islands, it could literally be the gateway for the Caribbean to the rest of the world.
Wow.
And that could be so critically important.
But it's 100%. I want our audience to really think about what we just said. We're going to go to a quick break. We're going to come back. We're going to unpack more of this because what we're talking about here is game changing. It's a game changing way of doing things and understanding what's going on in the U.S. economy and the U.S. Government, right? And then being able to utilize certain vehicles that are going to allow ease of use. That's what we're really talking about when it comes to technology. It's about ease of use. So if you can do things quicker, faster, and communicate on those two lines, ease of use and communication, you've got something. And that's why we want to talk about stablecoins. We'll be right back.
Follow the Brand TV broadcast host, Grant McGaugh, as he visits with top executives and entrepreneurs to find out their secrets of success with their personal brand. Follow the Brand TV broadcast host as he focuses on brand development to build better relationships, bring value to your business, relationships, and career. You will enjoy listening to each episode that is tailored to speak to you directly. If you're looking for this type of clarity in terms of building your brand, you have tuned into the right station. Each episode will help you to shape a conversation in the 5-star BDM network of 20,000 professionals and become a springboard for your corporate engagement and business opportunities. Each guest will frame their story in the areas of personal branding, business development, career development, financial empowerment, and technology innovation. Grant McGaugh explains why he is the CEO and owner of his own professional career. Grant is an accomplished business leader and entrepreneur who wants to give back to individuals to grow their personal brand strategy. Tune in as he weaves his story about new possibilities, while to you exceed expectations. If you love storytelling, this show will make for fun.
In today's fast-paced financial landscape, access to capital is the key to success. At the heart of this revolution is Case Capital Markets, powered by SETI-Case. Here, innovation and investment converge, creating a dynamic environment where businesses can thrive and reach new heights. Introducing Grant McGaugh, the Senior Advisor at Case Capital Markets. Grant is a visionary leader, dedicated to connecting businesses with institutional capital and strategic funding. His expertise opens doors to game-changing investment opportunities, making him an invaluable partner for companies looking to scale and succeed in the competitive world of finance. With an impressive 25 years in technology, 9 years in healthcare, and 6 years in investment banking, Grant McGaugh has a proven track record. He has successfully closed over $500 million in high-value transactions, seamlessly bridging technology, healthcare, and infrastructure with innovative financial solutions. His experience is a testament to his ability to drive success. Case Capital Markets offers businesses direct access to over 32,000 venture capital firms, private equity funds, family offices, and institutional investors. This network empowers mid-market companies with under $100 million in revenue to scale beyond their limits, unlocking unprecedented growth potential. Debt, equity, growth capital, public offerings. These are the building blocks of the future of capital access. Whether you're scaling a business, seeking investment, or exploring market expansion, Grant McGaw is your trusted partner. Together, you can unlock capital and create long-term financial success. The future belongs to those who take action. Are you ready to elevate your business?
Welcome back, everyone. And if you've been following the show, you understand now what's taking place in the economy, not just the U.S. economy, but the world economy when it comes to legislation around cryptocurrencies and what this is going to look like. So we've given you some definitions around that, what a stable coin can do. And Chris, I'm telling you, what you just told us about how you can utilize a stable coin, specifically, let's just say you're in the Caribbean island, and how when you buy it at a certain rate, it stays at that rate because it's backed. It is actually backed by the US dollar. It could be backed by a gold standard. These are the same thing that back, stock exchange and things of that nature, right? And when you can utilize that, instead of taking days to get a wire done, now you're talking about minutes. That's a huge game changer. Talk to us more how you feel this stablecoin utility can be a useful tool when we're opening up a new merchant bank here in St. Croix.
Well, Grant, first, we're here in the middle of Crypto Week. The U.S. government designated the week starting July 14th, and we're right in the middle of Crypto Week. So for me, it's exciting that we're on this topic now because stablecoins has really emerged as one of crypto's true breakthrough technologies, right? Because it's usability, and that's, to me, has always been the key thing of crypto, is that it's, yes, you can buy it, sell it, be able to make payments, be able to see it increase in value, decrease in value. But when you have utility, when you have usability, then crypto has become more important. Stable coins is one of the things that has done that. And that's why we've seen this continued increase in the value of crypto in general. And I really believe that we're going to see this to continue to the end of the year. I think, towards the end of the year, we're going to see new record highs pretty much across the board. And the reason I say that, Grant, is that there's a bunch of good news that's hitting us right now, starting with what we talked about in the earlier segment, which is the three bills that are right now being looked at by Congress. So we're going to get some regulatory clarity. And we've talked about regulation before, and that's been one of the things that has held back crypto because from being mainstream, because, for instance, the banks can't play in this space currently. And with this regulatory clarity that we're coming, it is hoped that the banks will be able to participate, which will give everybody in the United States a chance to be able to participate easily in cryptocurrency. And I hope more and more people will look to do so. The other thing that's contributing right now is one of the newer companies in the stablecoin space. They've been around for a little while, but now they're the company that puts out USDT, right? Mm-hmm. USDT is Tether, right? And then USDC is a company called Circle. And what's happened just in the last couple of weeks is that Circle has put out an IPO, right? That's a private offering where people come in and can buy shares in the company, and it was a blockbuster, Grant. It was such a big success, which shows such positive thought going into their stable coin, which is USDC, right? So with that happening, with the regulatory clarity we're going to get, and along with the approvals of new crypto ETFs, right? And ETFs are exchange funds that the SEC and the U.S. government have now allowed certain investment companies to be able to put them out. So what an ETF is in really basic terms, it gives you the ability by buying into this fund to de facto own crypto, right? You don't actually own it, you own shares in the fund, but the fund goes and it buys crypto. So one of the biggest, or I should say the biggest companies in the investment space is, of course, BlackRock, right? I think that's anybody that hears anything in Wall Street pretty much should know that name. Well, BlackRock's ETF for Bitcoin, which is what's regulated right now, is Bitcoin is allowed to be done in ETFs. They have right now 700,000 Bitcoins under their control, and within BlackRock, this fund is now the third most popular fund, most subscribed fund, third most subscribed fund, and it's the best performer right now in terms of increase in value, which of course is what you want to see happen with your fund. So when you look at these things, and then you look at right now, we're going to see ETFs in Ethereum that's been approved. We're now seeing ETFs being approved by the SEC that will do some of the next cryptocurrencies. Litecoin, you'll see very quickly. You'll see coming on, right? So we'll see. And then what we're also right now, there's another very large fund, which is going to be coming out very quickly once all the approvals are done, which will actually be a fund that will have several cryptos in it. Okay, and that will be new. That will be a first thing. I think that will generate a lot of excitement in the market, because people will now have a chance to get involved in holding numerous cryptos, again, without actually buying those cryptos, because what you're doing is you're buying shares in a fund. So that company is called Grayscale, right? They're also very big on that. They have the approval for the SEC to do a mixed crypto ETF, right? And right now the launch is paused, but it will be happening, and I expect that it'll happen soon. So the reason I mention all this is there's a lot of excitement on crypto. There's a lot of upside on crypto now going between now and the end of the year, because we're going to see all this good news come to fruition. And what we will see with that is the exciting stable coin becoming kind of a centerpiece in that. Okay. And why I say that, because as Grant talked earlier about merchant banking, when the banks can actually access and start using these stable coins for transactions, we're going to see kind of a bit of a transformation in how the payment business is done. And right now I can tell you, banks are asking about it. Banks are already got the technology in place for it. Fintechs know about it. Fintechs have the technology. A lot of fintechs are providing the technology to banks, in fact, right? A lot of banks are looking to buy fintechs who have that technology. So there's a lot of excitement in that whole arena right now. And all of it is centered on the fact that stable coins actually have real usability in the real world, right? That's to me is kind of the key.
I think what you're saying, and I want, before I don't want to step over you, but this is important for our audience to truly understand that. And when you look at Bitcoin was a revolution, no doubt about it, revolution, and it's been in the market for a while and it has excellent value. And people start to see that like, hey, this is a real thing. It's not a fad. Stable coins, to me, are an evolution of what Bitcoin is about. That fad is not just a speculation. It's something that the real future can use. And I like your term earlier about programmable money, but programmable money that is stable. So we're not talking about selling some magic beans, or we're talking about a dollar-backed type of currency that cuts some remitted, cost. It will smooth out a lot of the supply chain, especially in the Caribbean, and make merchant banking a lot more efficient than it already is in the archipelago. So this is not a fad. This is a 21st century trade finance utility.
Yeah, you're exactly right about that, and that's what stable coins. Like I said earlier, it's technology that has emerged from the crypto space that has real usability, which is why you see the banks so excited about it, right? This is a big changer for them. It really makes a lot of savings. Now, let me give you something else about stable coins and why we're going to see stable coins really push the crypto market. I'm excited about how the crypto market is going to play out this rest of this year. I think we're going to see an increase that will continue. And in particular, I'm really fond of the number 2 cryptocurrency, which is called Ethereum. Okay, yeah. And there's a couple of reasons why. The Ethereum white paper came out in 2013, right? But the Ethereum, the blockchain, and Ethereum, the cryptocurrency, actually began in 2015, which makes this year the 10-year anniversary of Ethereum, which is the number 2 cryptocurrency by market cap. Now, here's what's really exciting with stablecoins is a little more than 50% of all stablecoin and the stablecoin market runs on Ethereum blockchains. So to me, it's 2 + 2 = 4. If stable coins are going to rise up, if the bulk of them are on Ethereum, then Ethereum is going to rise up. So that's one thing that has me really excited about it. And there's a big difference in terms of approach between Bitcoin and Ethereum. And I thought maybe it would make sense just to tell people a little bit of what the difference is between these 2 cryptocurrencies, because there is quite a difference. And I mean, the first difference, Grant, is there's a big difference in price. We're seeing Bitcoin hitting 116,000, I saw, and we're seeing Ethereum per coin, in the 2,500 to 2,600 range, right? So right. Big discrepancy in the value per coin. And there's a couple of reasons for that. One is, look, we always talk about supply and demand. Well, Bitcoin is a capped supply. It's fixed at 21 million Bitcoins, right? There can never be more. So that desirability and that limited availability creates pressure that increases the price, right? On the Ethereum supply, there's no hard cap, right? So it's a difference in what could be available and how it is available. Now, another difference is in speed of transaction. You could look at the speed of transaction on Ethereum is less than a minute. On Bitcoin, you're looking at about 10 minutes. And while it sounds like a small amount of time, when you're waiting for money, 2 seconds is too much because I want my money, right? Right? And then the use cases for it, right? Bitcoin's use case has really been as a store of value. So in other words, the same reason why people buy gold, because it's safe, because it increases in value, because there's a limited supply and there's a market for it that's an easily accessible market. It's a liquid market, right? You have the same thing for Bitcoin. It's a store of value. It's also can be used for making payments, right? That's the main use case. While we go to Ethereum, and yes, Ethereum also can be a store of value. Ethereum is also used for making payments, but Ethereum also has built into it smart contracts. And we're going to hear, we've heard about it, it kind of quiet about it, but smart contracts still is a very important development. It is something that will be very important in the use of stable coins. And again, when I talk about the term programmable money, this is where a smart contract really come in.
Right.
You can write a simple smart contract on Ethereum that can use your stable coins to make payments at specific times, specific amounts to specific parties, right? So that smart contract is going to be, and that's why Ethereum has gained so much of the stablecoin business, right? And then other things like NFTs, you can't do with Bitcoin. You can do that on the Ethereum blockchain, along with Web3, the DAOs that we hear about, and decentralized finance, which is also something that you're going to see grow. So I think we can see that Bitcoin has that value that it does, that price that it does, because it's such a trusted store of value and you can do payments with it. While Ethereum, you can see, is going to be growing just based on the usability of smart contracts with stable coins.
I think you make great points there, Chris. We need to understand this. And we also need to understand there's risk anytime that you're looking into these types of newer emerging financial instruments. And you need to understand these things. So if you start seeing people that just overnight, there's some issuers of stable coins, just do your due diligence. You need to understand what's happening and who's backing these types of things. And that's why, big stable coins, they have to do audits every single month, because as you said earlier, the way that the U.S. Congress right now is starting to look at these things and what's going to be the outcome of that. So if there's any kind of regulatory flip-flop and the U.S. suddenly bans stablecoin, these kinds of rails, that's going to be a problem. So we need to work hand in hand with our policymakers to prove that it's legitimate, that it's transparent, that it's actually delivering the financial inclusion and not just loopholes, so that it's something that can be used long term. Right. So this is very, very important that you understand what the framework is, what are the what's the regulatory buy-in, what we can see, because in the next, I'm going to say in the next year, maybe even 18 months, you're going to start seeing a lot more of these frameworks come out. Again, depending on what the policymakers do, but you can start seeing cross-border trade settlements that'll start paying with stable coins. And this will help between, what St. Croix is doing in Puerto Rico, what they're doing in the rest of the Caribbean and the archipelago. So we start seeing small scale with real proof of concept of utilizing this type of currency, so you can scale and start utilizing these things, even when it comes to healthcare, it comes to port fees, it comes to shipping insurance. So it's more of a crawl, walk, run approach. And I figure if you're an investor and you're watching this, you might agree with what we're talking about. So Chris, before we conclude here, we're getting toward the end here. What else would you want our audience to understand, especially during Crypto Week?
Well, Grant, I mean, I love the fact that we're in the middle of Crypto Week, but I just want to touch on what you just said, because there's some really important things, and you're quite correct. The crawl, walk, run, but I think we're at the walk stage, and I'll tell you why. Let me give you just some numbers, right? Because it's pretty interesting in terms of how that's gone. In the month of June, which we just completed, right? We processed with stable coins 236 million transactions, which was 28% more than we did in May, which May was a record. Every month we've improved by leaps and bounds, and that's just going to continue, and it's going to continue to grow. So I would suggest that we're at the walk stage right now when we look at those kind of increases and what we're seeing there. The other aspect about stable coins that I want to just bring out is just think about what it could do for the lending business, right? Mm-hmm. Somebody buys stable coins and then looks to borrow against those stable coins. It's a much more reasonable risk proposition for a bank or a financial institution, or even just a lender, to say, hey, you know what, that stable coin, the value is not going to change. I can feel comfortable to lend against that, right? While I might not feel comfortable to lend against your cryptocurrency, if you own, for instance, Ethereum or Litecoin or something, as a lender, I might not feel so comfortable because you'll see fluctuation of price, right? But a stable coin, fluctuation. So I think in addition to what we talk about for payments, which is going to be revolutionary, we're going to start seeing the same things and this increased use and usability of stable coins in the lending space.
Man, everything you talked about is so important. So as we build out our new merchant bank and our financial center in St. Croix, and our investment community sees a stable coin option, I figure that they're going to look like, hey, these guys are on top of things. They are not looking at doing traditional banking, even though they have traditional banking operations. They also have this new emerging opportunities that make this, I would say, a force multiplier within the archipelago. Like, hey, we can't get this done in other markets within the Caribbean. This becomes a go-to place back, and it's, remember, we're backed by U.S. banking laws. It becomes very stable, right? I would say you start looking at this like, okay, my money is safe flowing through the St. Croix Merchant Bank system than it would be anywhere else in the Caribbean. I don't know, Chris, if you'd like to back that up, or is that just me?
Grant, I want to hit you with a couple of other things. And again, right now, personally, I'm just a pro crypto throughout the end of the year. And I'll give you a couple of other reasons beyond what we've talked about as to why, right? And of course, the regulation, what's going on during this crypto week in Congress, critically important that we get the right kind of regulation in place that will boost the market. But it's like when people ask me, they say, oh, I see this crypto coin, whatever the name of it is, should I buy it or not? And, okay, I'm not giving out any kind of advice in terms of that. But what I will say is you got to look at the market in general. So right now we have favorable regulatory environment coming. That's number one. And what we're also seeing is the ETFs growing, more of them getting approved, and that's more money coming in. And you see, for the price of crypto to go up, just like a price of stock, you have IBM stock, for IBM to go, there has to be new money coming in. We have that situation right now in the crypto market, right? Again, regulation is going to allow more to happen, more money will come in. ETFs are being approved in more cryptos. We're going to see more money coming in. But here's one area where people might not be seeing. We're seeing a huge influx right now, a huge buying movement by both governments and corporate treasuries to add cryptocurrencies, particularly stable coins again, to add it to their balance sheets, right? And right now in the US, the top 100 public companies all hold some amount of Bitcoin on their balance sheet. Let me say it again. Top 100 public companies all have
that should tell you something.
Bitcoin on their balance sheets already.
Chip coming up. Hey, Chris, we got to let go of our story. I encourage everybody to tune in again next week.
Grant, let me leave you one thought, Grant. Grant, let me leave you one thought. And this is just the things off my top of the head that I'm excited about and I'm looking that will happen over the next couple of years. So people that want to follow what a new trend is, this is what I think. I think robo-taxis is going to be a new trend. Of course, AI. Following Elon Musk, what can I say? Robo-freight, okay? Trucks that are going to be driving themselves. There's a big movement right now in brain implants, and then of course crypto, and anything about the crypto space I'm bullish on right now.
We got to keep going. So come back next week. We're going to pack some of the things that Chris is talking about. Thank you again for being on The Big Picture.
Thank you. Bye-bye now.
Bye-bye.